Hi, Carrie. Thank you so much for coming on the Thrival Nutrition Podcast. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to be talking to my tribe today about your new book. Tell us just first, before we get into it, who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Carrie Harper, and I spell my first name like the scary movie or like Carrie Fisher, whichever one you prefer. My website is called Carrie Fit, which is my first name, fit.com. And I am a long time personal trainer, fitness coach, somebody who works with lots of populations in being well and healthy. I've been doing that since the mid 90s. So don't let that, attach any ages to me or anything like that. But I've been doing this for a while. I added pre and postnatal in the early 2000s when I was pregnant with my own child. And so I'm a mom of two girls myself, and I work a lot in the pre and postnatal fitness, health, and healing direction. Right.
Nice. And so what kind of brought you into that? So I know we're going to be talking about diastasis recti, and I know that that's a lot in postpartum. So did something, maybe a personal experience that kind of brought you to specialize that and really love it?
Well, it's an interesting path that we all walk down, isn't it? I mentioned that I got my pre and postnatal certification in the early 2000s, 2004. I also had my child at the end of 2004 as my first child. And there was nothing in my training that mentioned diastasis recti. In any of my personal training certificates, in any of my study on the human body, on my pre and postnatal certification, which I hope it's better now, but then it was not even mentioned. So.
Not even postpartum?
No.
Really?
Nothing. I'm thinking that they've updated it, maybe hopefully at least a little bit, but there is still there's noise around it and not information around it now, yes. If you know what I mean. It's a lot of white noise, not a lot of good information. But anyway, so I had severe diastasis recti after my first child, and I didn't know what it was. And I'd spent all these years in my industry and no one had answers for me. And so I'm asking people that I work with, they're like, just do more sit-ups. I'm asking my, people that are in the wellness sphere, and they're like, you just had a baby. This is just life now. And I'm like, this cannot be the answer. So I'm doing all of the stuff that I had been doing before I was pregnant. So I'm doing sit-ups and planks and pull-ups and double leg lifts and all of this stuff, thinking it's going to increase my strength. And all it did was increase my injury.
Wow.
So it got really bad. And when I finally got an answer from my doctor, his only answer was, you have the worst diastasis I have ever seen, and you need to see a surgeon.
Wow.
That's what he told me. So I had another baby a few years later. And so that's my two girls. And after the birth of my second child, I finally found somebody else's program that said that it was for diastasis recovery. It made no sense to me, even though I have this full history in fitness, Pilates, yoga, everything made no sense to me. Did not help me at all. Injury did not get better. And so I went under the knife. It took 2 surgeons 6 hours to repair my abdominal walls.
Oh my gosh.
And the recovery from that surgery was beyond anything that I can even explain to you. It's chapter 2 in my book, and I encourage people to read that with an open heart and an open mind. But out of all of that came the miracle of me learning how to heal myself.
Okay, and so to know that it's right, it's your fingers, the finger width between your abdomen walls.
Right, so I could fit my hand in between my abdominal walls.
Wow.
And there were hernias in there as well. And just so you know, I help people now that I could fit this much in between their abdominal walls, because I help a lot of people that, and I just showed 10 fingers, sorry if you're listening and didn't see that. I can fit 10 fingers between abdominal walls because they've had multiples. I mean, people that have really, really stretched their abdominals to the absolute limit with multiple babies, they can have some very serious injuries from that. But for me, coming out of that surgery and recovery was me digging back into how do I function again? Because basically after surgery, I couldn't walk. I couldn't move my legs. Moving my arms was difficult. Like everything I realized was all connected. And so I went back into all of my previous studies and started really like pinpointing little things. Okay, well, this is how this feels when I do that. And this feels wrong, but this feels like it's healing and helping me. And so I basically taught myself how to stand up straight again, how to walk again. And I slowly started getting strong again. And then I was going back into fitness and helping other people. And that's when I said, you know what, I can't possibly be the only one.
Yes.
So I start checking everybody for diastasis. And it became very apparent to me that it's an epidemic proportion of people. Huge numbers of people have at least some division in the rectus abdominis. And it's not just mothers. A lot of it is mothers. People that had their baby 20 years ago still have diastasis recti from that pregnancy. Also, Olympic weightlifters have that a lot. People that have gained and lost a lot of weight around their midsection.
Right.
And even people with eating disorders can have a division in the rectus abdominis. And so when I started using my therapy system that helped me stand up straight, walk, move, and get strong again onto people that had this injury, their injury actually started to recover. And that was an amazing light bulb moment to me. That was, oh my gosh, you know, we can heal, like the body wants to heal from the inside out.
Yes.
We just have to give it the tools to be able to.
Yes. So outside of multiples, is there other reasons, even if someone has like a single baby, and I know you mentioned eating disorders and losing weight, what is it, just because you start off with weak abdominals and then there's something that happens just like pregnancy or massive weight gain or weight loss in your abdomen? What is going on behind it that it even happens?
I love that question. And I think a lot of people beat themselves up when they have this injury because they feel like they've done something wrong.
Yeah.
But what happens is that anything behind the rectus abdominis that pushes it to that point where it can't stretch anymore, it's going to open the rectus abdominis along that center point, which is called the linea alba. It is a very thin tissue material that holds our rectus abdominis together. And so, like, I carried my babies like a missile straight out in front of me. And I had an extremely hard abdominal wall from many years of doing Pilates and hardcore abdominals. So my abdominals were not very flexible. They could not stretch that far. And that's why mine opened. And then mine got worse because of doing the wrong things postpartum. The double leg lifts, planks, and sit-ups, and anything hanging from a bar, I realized later on, the reason that those were painful to me is because they were hurting me. And I think a lot of people think no pain, no gain, right? So they push through things that hurt, and it's actually increasing injury. It should feel like work when you're healing, but it should not be that bad ripping kind of pain.
Yes.
So yes, I see that in people that have very tight abdominals. I see it in people that have very weak abdominals. I especially see it in people that have poor posture.
Yes. Yes, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your book. So I know that you cover your story, so kind of what you went through with the surgery and stuff. What are some other like basics that you teach in it?
So first of all, the book is a method book. It's a method for recovery. And it's also a storybook. So it has my story and the stories of other women that have struggled with this and have recovered from this. So the reason I love to give this book out is because it's not just the methodology, but the inspiration that we all need to hear sometimes, that wherever you are is okay. And wherever you're going is where you're supposed to go. And we want to do it from a very, very healthy way.
Yes.
So I have a full chapter on the most important thing, which is ABC, alignment, breathing, core engagement. That is the foundation for everything that I teach. And it's the most important part of this healing practice, as well as many other healing practices. You know, as well as I, that there are numerous disorders and dysfunctions that come out of misalignment, poor breathing habits, and not understanding core engagement, which even with my background, like I mentioned, I didn't really understand what that meant until I had to teach myself how to do it. So I teach that in the book. It has video links and a 4-day video training series within just the ABCs to help people realign, relearn how to breathe, and relearn where their core structure is. Then I have an entire section on strengthening from that point. So once you get the ABCs and you're aligned, then you can start working on strengthening the muscles, and they'll start coming together naturally at that point. And I have video links for the strengthening series as well within the book.
That's awesome. See, I find that we go through things. So like you went through, the surgery and just having it pretty severely. But it always brings you to the other side, right? Because if you didn't have it, you wouldn't be able to talk as well about it or teach others about it, or even just feel that compassion that with people that struggle with that. And I know how hard it is because, like you said, some people don't even know they have it, but then when they realize it, they're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And they're hard on themselves. And so I love that you created a resource about this. Give us a little bit more education on the breathing aspect of it. I'd love to get some tidbits that maybe people don't realize, maybe something that's different that what you see like on social media and the web of maybe wrong information.
Okay, so this is going to be controversial for some of your people. Just hear me out. The belly breath that many of us were taught. I'm a musician. I was taught belly breath. I was taught belly breath when I first started doing yoga. Belly breath actually expands your injury every time. So if you think about it, if you think about like a pitcher, right? Pitchers get rotator cuff injuries all the time, right? That's their most common injury. If you have a pitcher with a rotator cuff injury, do you send him out to do rotations over and over and over again? No, you don't. You don't send him out on the pitcher's mound. You give him a therapy so that his rotator cuff can heal rather than re-injuring it over and over and over again. So this is where Pilates comes in, and I'm telling you, Pilates was brilliant and way ahead of his time. If you don't know who Joseph Pilates is, look him up. He is amazing. But he retaught people how to actually use their lungs. Your lungs live underneath your ribs. They don't live in your belly.
So can you go back and explain? 'Cause I don't even think I know what belly breath is.
So belly breath is like you leave your ribs down and you expand and contract your abdominal walls with every breath.
Okay.
So it's like pushing your navel out and then pulling it back in with every breath. So you see that kind of thing with like meditation and yoga and musicians use that all the time. And the misnomer, which is so crazy because I went to music school, is that that's your lungs and that's breathing into your diaphragm. And that's two total falsehoods. Your lungs and your diaphragm are not in your belly.
Right.
That area in your belly is your intestines.
Right.
So that doesn't even make any sense. Your lungs live under your ribs. That's what your ribs are for. They hold your lungs, right? And your diaphragm is right underneath that, and it's an involuntary muscle. You cannot breathe into your diaphragm. So you expand and contract your lungs and your diaphragm moves. So by thinking, okay, my lungs taking up the space of my ribs, they go all the way around my body from front to side to back. And if you expand and contract that way, like you're filling up balloons under your lungs, then at the same time, you can maintain core engagement, which means just holding your navel up and in. Like you just zipped up a pair of high pants that are one size too tight. Like you just zip it up, and you're just sort of holding it up and in, not vacuuming, squeezing, like intensifying, anything like that. But if you just do that little minor hold, like you just zipped up something too tight, and you breathe up into your lungs, then your muscles are easily engaged in holding you together.
Interesting. As you said it, I'm like trying to, and my belly breathing, I don't think I do. I think I do what you just said, like naturally. I don't even really think about it. But then again, I was never taught like belly breaths. I never really did music or anything like that. So maybe that's why. But do you find that a lot of people have that habit, that people just do that and they don't realize it?
Yes. And yeah, I think it comes out of different practices and maybe sometimes out of the poor alignment. So if your alignment is poor and your shoulders are rolled forward and your ribs are down, and you can't breathe into your lungs, you're going to breathe into your belly. And so a lot of times it's me fixing their alignment. And then they're like, oh, there, I can breathe. I can take a full breath. So many people are walking around without even being able to take a full breath, and they're missing out on so many benefits from oxygen.
Yes.
You know, it just sounds so basic, but it's so true. And there's two types of people. I tell everybody there's natural core engagers, which it sounds like you're a natural core engager. And there's people that just are blind to it. They've never really felt anything below the neck. And so they're not thinking about it. And so it's a totally new concept sometimes.
Wow. And with alignment, do you feel that working with a chiropractor is necessary? I know it's maybe like just beneficial, but do you find it's necessary for healing?
Definitely beneficial. And for some of my folks that are in really poor alignment, and I can tell that they have structural issues, I will recommend that they go see their chiropractor in addition to, you know, working outside of the chiropractor's office. It's really important that they don't just depend on that chiropractor to help them, that they have to have the muscles together to hold their spine where it's supposed to be. And as you know, and as you've seen, it's getting worse because of tech neck, which is the head pushed forward, the shoulders rounded forward, people staring at screens and computers. And people are actually like stuck there. It's sometimes really hard to get the shoulder to go back into the shoulder girdle because it's been held forward for years sometimes.
I have to remind myself. Sometimes like me and my husband, we kind of keep each other accountable. He's like, you're slouching. I'm like, crap. And I like, we'll put like stand back up straight. So it's so hard to get out of that habit, but it's so true.
And the amount of issues that they can have from just that shoulder and neck forward, from neck pain to back pain to, I mean, I'm seeing all kind like shooting pain down people's arms from it, just craziness happening just from that one issue of being rolled forward. So it has to be a conscious effort for all of us. Like you said, have an accountability partner or an alarm on your phone that says something like, sit up straight several times a day, especially if you're working in front of a screen.
Yeah, I know their chiropractors are fantastic and I love them and I use them, but I just feel like, you know, it's so quick and you probably don't see them the majority of your week. So it is like trying to implement other things that you could be doing at home. And I have a couple of things because my neck has gotten so much better, but yeah, it used to be a little bit more forward than it is. Never terrible, but definitely not optimal. And so we use the little, it's like a band where you pull it around and kind of hold it out to here and you just kind of do up, down, that yes, no, and then just laying on it and things like that. But I can feel it when I'm like typing and I'm looking down and it's just like, oh, you just get so, you know, not like lubrication, I feel like, where I could.
Right.
Just
yes. Yeah.
So what are some other things that you feel like you see on the internet that is misguiding people? You know, if someone's just Googling diastasis recti and okay, well, I see these exercises to do. Do you ever see something that's commonly recommended that isn't or shouldn't be done?
Okay. And again, probably going to insult some people here, but I just have to tell you the truth.
Yes.
Pinterest here can really be not helpful.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in my industry that got diastasis recti as a buzzword and they just use it. And they're like, oh, it's a tummy issue, so I'm going to attach that buzzword to all of my core exercises and tell people that it's a solution. So I see very poorly done planks. And I tell my people, planks are not part of your repertoire right now unless you have your knees down. But I see very poorly done planks as a recommendation. And I see, your typical like sit-ups and double leg lifts, which are counterintuitive to this specific injury as well, being attached to it. And just like the very hardcore boot campy type of workouts that are not conducive to healing is what I see mostly.
Okay. Do you have an example of those workouts? I'm trying to think if I can think of anything like CrossFit or something more like the group trainings, which I find I'm personally not a fan of a lot of group training programs around here, just because like I see a lot of people that have horrible form, and I'm not even trained in it, but you can tell they're just like terrible. And it's just, I don't know, maybe there's a lot of people and they just kind of push through workouts or.
Right. So what I can recommend to somebody that is struggling is that, first of all, to start with the book and be in charge of your own body, so that if you are going to a group class or an exercise class, that you stand up for yourself and you modify appropriately and do the exercises that are appropriate for your specific body. I was just talking to a brand new client yesterday who is going to yoga, and she admitted flat out to me, I'm too embarrassed when I go to yoga class to take the twists out because people will look at me. Well, guess what? You're in yoga class because it's your yoga practice. Why would you go to yoga to hurt yourself? That does not even make logical sense. And she knew it didn't make logical sense.
Yes.
But I had to empower her to say, if anybody questions you, you can say, I have an injury. This is what I need to do for myself right now. And they're not going to ask you.
Yes.
I teach several group exercise classes, and I have the whole gamut. I have neck injuries, back injuries, wrist injuries, shoulder injuries, knee injuries. Everything comes to my class. What do I expect? I expect them to know what they need to do for themselves, or to ask me, hey, I have this problem. What should I be doing? And I can very easily crank out, hey, let's avoid this, this, and this in the class today. Instead, why don't you try this?
Yes. I love Yoga with Adrienne, and she has a big YouTube channel and stuff. But one of my favorite things with her was with her exercise or her yoga practices. She always modified it for you. So she's like, if you were a beginner, this is where you start. You don't go like, all the way in. And I really appreciated that as someone that was just starting out, because a lot of it looked intimidating, but she just made it so easy just to modify it. And so that's why I think also working one-on-one with a personal trainer, especially if you have an injury or you are just brand new, they can actually make something personalized to you. So you can go to, like, if you want to do group trainings, like you said, you go educated, knowing what you need to do and what you need to focus on.
Yes. Everybody's body is different. So trying to put anybody's body into one specific hole is not going to help anybody. And any instructor that tries to tell you that really is not doing you a service.
Yes. I can say the same about nutrition. Don't get me started on keto and all these other things that are going around. It's my pet peeve. And I think just human nature, we're always looking for a magic diet or magic pill that works for everyone because everyone's doing it and it's trending. But it's so hard to get in your head, like, no, like you shouldn't be doing it because blank and blank, you're really stressed out. This is your lifestyle. Like, it's probably not going, like, yeah, you'll get results, right? Maybe within the first month or two, but that doesn't mean that in the long term, this is sustainable for you, or if it's even a good idea, making things worse, like you said.
Yes.
So I totally understand. And that feels, that's really hard for me. Can you share maybe one other thing that you feel that's in your book and that's really awesome and interesting, maybe surprising?
Yes. So you had mentioned at the beginning about being pregnant or before being pregnant, what we can do. And I would say this is really exciting. One of my clients, she wasn't even like a personal one-on-one client, someone that read my book and did the things and followed me for a long time, had reached out to me when she was pregnant and said, what do I need to do? I have diastasis from my previous pregnancy. What do I need to do during this pregnancy? And I said, the ABCs. The foundation of everything is alignment, breathing, core engagement. Just do that. Well, at her postpartum appointment, 6 weeks after this pregnancy, she had no diastasis.
That's awesome.
So if you just can do that part of it, prenatal or even before that, I would say it's going to reduce any chances of diastasis or reduce the level of injury that you have postpartum.
I love that. That's a great story. How encouraging. Because I know some moms kind of go into it like, oh, it's inevitable. Like it's going to happen and I'll just deal with it later. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know Carrie graciously offered a free book. And so what we're going to do is that today, the first person to comment on Instagram on the post for this podcast she'll mail you out a book, a signed copy. And then tell us where we can find you and then where we can find your book.
Okay. The easiest place to find me is carriefit.com. That's CarrieFit.com. And I am the same name everywhere. So you can look up Carrie Fit on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest or YouTube, and you'll find me. My book is called Flatten, My Postpartum Belly, and it's available exclusively on Amazon in digital or in paper.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your knowledge. I'm so excited that this resource is available and that I can refer even people that I know to grab your book.
I so appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.